London. What a glorious, sprawling, magnificent old beast of a city it is. Say the name and 1,000 images flood the mind, don't they? Red double-decker buses trundling past Big Ben, the Queen's Guard standing stoically in their bearskin hats, black cabs whizzing through a rainy Piccadilly circus. It's a city of theatre and finance, of punk rock and parliamentary debate, a place where ancient stone walls stand shoulder to shoulder with gleaming glass skyscrapers. It's a city that has been at the very heart of history, a crucible where cultures have clashed, merged, and created something utterly, wonderfully unique. But have you ever stopped, perhaps while sipping a pint in a pub older than most countries, to ponder how it all came to be? This city wasn't just built, it grew. It evolved. It was knocked down and rebuilt again and again, with a stubborn resilience that is perhaps its most defining characteristic. Its story is not just a dry list of dates and dusty monarchs. It's a rip-roaring saga filled with plagues and fires, genius and madness, heroes and villains. It's a tale written in the very cobblestones beneath your feet, in the curve of the River Thames, and in the names of its streets from Pudding Lane to Pall Mall. To truly understand London, one must peel back its many, many layers. It's like a magnificent and slightly chaotic historical onion. From the marching sandals of Roman legionaries to the clatter of Victorian factory machinery, and from the defiant roar of Spitfires overhead to the vibrant hum of a modern multicultural metropolis, the city's past is always present. It whispers to you from forgotten alleyways and shouts from the grand facades of its iconic buildings, inviting you to listen to its extraordinary tale. So let us embark on a little jaunt through time, a brief but spirited tour of London's rather astonishing past. We'll meet the Romans who gave it its first name, survive the inferno that nearly wiped it off the map, and marvel at the engineering feats that powered an empire. We will witness its courage under fire and celebrate the vibrant, ever-changing city it has become today. It's a story of survival, of reinvention, and of the irrepressible human spirit. Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be quite a ride through 2 millennia of glorious, muddled, and magnificent history. Our story begins not with kings or queens, but with a rather practical and ambitious bunch of invaders, the Romans. Around the year 43 AD, long before the city was a twinkle in anyone's eye, the legions of Emperor Claudius marched across Britain. They needed a strategic spot to cross the wide tidal River Thames, a place where they could build a bridge to move troops and supplies north. They found the perfect location, a patch of gravelly, relatively dry land, and there they established a settlement. They called it Londinium. And just like that, with a bit of Roman engineering and a lot of ambition, the seed of London was planted. Initially, Londinium was little more than a provincial trading post, a functional cog in the vast machine of the Roman Empire. But its location was simply too good to ignore. It quickly blossomed into a bustling port, a hub of commerce connecting Britain with the rest of Europe. Goods flowed in and out, wine and pottery from Gaul, olive oil from Spain, and British exports like grain, hunting dogs, and, rather grimly, slaves. The Romans, being Romans, built it all properly. They laid down a grid of straight roads, erected a forum, a basilica for law and administration, and of course a few bathhouses for a good steam, and a gossip. Of course, it wasn't all smooth sailing, or rather smooth marching. In 60 AD, the formidable Celtic queen Boudicca of the Iceni tribe led a furious rebellion against Roman rule. She and her army descended upon the fledgling city, which had no significant defences at the time, and burned it to the ground. Archaeologists today can still find a distinct layer of scorched red earth beneath the city, a fiery testament to Boudicca's wrath. But you simply can't keep a good city down. The Romans returned, rebuilt Londinium, and this time they encircled it with a formidable defensive wall, parts of which, astonishingly, still stand today. For the next 3 centuries, Londinium thrived as the largest and most important city in Roman Britannia. It was a cosmopolitan place, home to soldiers, merchants, officials, and artisans from across the empire. But as the Roman Empire began to crumble in the 5th century, the legions were recalled to defend Rome itself. Londinium was abandoned, its grand buildings fell into ruin, and the city entered a period of silence, a ghost town on the Thames, waiting for its next chapter to begin. After the Romans packed their bags and left, London became a bit of a ghost town for a while, a place known to the Anglo-Saxons as Lundenwic. but its prime real estate on the river was too valuable to lie fallow forever. By the 9th century, under Alfred the Great, the city within the old Roman walls was reoccupied and fortified against pesky Viking raids. This was the birth of medieval London, a city of narrow, winding streets, timber-framed houses, leaning precariously against each other, and the ever-present smell of wood smoke, livestock and humanity. It was crowded, chaotic, and brimming with life, a world away from the orderly grid of Londinium. The Norman conquest in 1066 truly cemented London's importance. William the Conqueror, knowing he needed to keep the powerful and stroppy Londoners on his side, granted the city a special charter of rights. He also built a formidable fortress to keep an eye on them, the Tower of London. This imposing stone keep, initially called the White Tower, was a symbol of royal power, a palace, a prison, and a place of terrifying repute. Life in medieval and Tudor London was a vibrant, if often short, affair. The city was a warren of guilds, from the fishmongers to the goldsmiths who controlled trade with an iron fist. The River Thames was its main highway, teeming with boats and barges, while London Bridge, the only bridge across the river until the 18th century, was a spectacle in itself, crammed with houses and shops up to 7 stories high. This was the London of Geoffrey Chaucer's Pilgrims, and later of William Shakespeare, whose plays were performed at the Globe Theatre in Southwark, drawing crowds from every walk of life to watch tales of love, tragedy, and comedy unfold. This era also saw the construction of magnificent cathedrals and churches, their spires reaching for the heavens. The original St. Paul's Cathedral, a colossal Gothic structure with one of the tallest spires in Europe, stood as the city's spiritual heart. But it was also a period of great upheaval. The Black Death wiped out a huge portion of the population, the peasants' revolt saw rebels storm the city, and the religious turmoil of the Reformation under the Tudors changed the face of London forever as monasteries were dissolved and the city's relationship with the church was irrevocably altered. Through it all, London just kept growing a messy, resilient, and utterly fascinating place. By the mid-17th century, London was honestly a tinderbox just waiting for a spark. The medieval city, with its tightly packed wooden houses and narrow alleyways, was dangerously flammable. That spark came in the early hours of September 2nd, 1666. It started in a baker's shop on Pudding Lane belonging to one Thomas Fariner. A small fire, maybe from an oven that wasn't properly extinguished, quickly took hold. Fanned by a strong easterly wind, the flames leapt from one timber-framed building to another, and within hours, the blaze had just become an unstoppable, roaring inferno. The Great Fire of London had begun. The fire raged for 4 days and 4 nights, a terrifying spectacle of destruction. The diarist Samuel Pepys climbed the tower of a church and described it as a most horrid, malicious, bloody flame, not like the fine flame of an ordinary fire. The heat was so intense it melted the lead roof of St. Paul's Cathedral, which came pouring down into the streets like a river of molten silver. The ancient cathedral itself was utterly gutted. When the smoke finally cleared, the devastation was almost total. Over 13,000 houses, 87 parish churches, and most of the city's civic buildings lay in a heap of smouldering ash. Medieval London was gone forever. Yet from these ashes rose an extraordinary opportunity. London had a blank slate. King Charles II and the city fathers were determined to rebuild a better, safer city. The brilliant architect Sir Christopher Wren was tasked with redesigning much of it. He designed and oversaw the rebuilding of 52 of the destroyed churches, each one a unique masterpiece of English Baroque style. His crowning achievement, of course, was the new St. Paul's Cathedral, with its magnificent, world-famous dome, a symbol of rebirth and resilience that still defines the London skyline. This great rebuilding coincided with London's emergence as the centre of a burgeoning global empire and a financial powerhouse. The Royal Exchange was rebuilt, the Bank of England was founded in 1694, and Lloyd's of London began its life in a coffee house, insuring ships that sailed to the furthest corners of the globe. The city was no longer just the capital of England, it was becoming the capital of the world. The Great Fire, a catastrophe of unimaginable proportions, had paradoxically paved the way for the creation of a more modern, more robust and more influential London, ready to take its place on the world stage. If any era defines the London we imagine from classic literature, it is the Victorian age. This was the London of Charles Dickens, of smog-filled streets, gas lamps casting eerie glows, and the stark contrast between unimaginable wealth and grinding poverty. During the 19th century, London exploded in size, becoming the largest and most populous city in the world, the beating heart of the vast British Empire. It was a city of incredible energy, innovation and ambition, a place where the Industrial Revolution was made manifest in iron, steam and brick. It was a time of immense progress and honestly some pretty profound social problems. The Victorians were master builders and engineers, and they reshaped London on a scale not seen since the Romans. Faced with a city choking on its own filth, the Great Stink of 1858 saw the Thames become so foul that Parliament had to be suspended. They embarked on one of the greatest civic engineering projects in history. Joseph Bazalgette designed and built a revolutionary sewer system, a network of over 1,000 miles of tunnels and pipes that cleaned up the river and saved the city from cholera. This incredible, largely unseen infrastructure still serves London today, a hidden monument to Victorian foresight. This was also the age of the railway. Great cathedrals of steam like St Pancras Paddington and King's Cross Station were built, connecting London to every corner of the country and fueling its growth. And then, in 1863, came something truly world-changing, the London Underground. The first line, the Metropolitan Railway, was a marvel of engineering, a subterranean railway that allowed people to travel beneath the congested city streets. It was noisy, smoky, and powered by steam trains, but it was the beginning of the tube system that remains the lifeblood of the city. Above ground, the city adorned itself with many of its most famous landmarks. The Houses of Parliament, with their iconic clock tower housing Big Ben, were completed after a fire destroyed the old palace. Prince Albert, Queen Victoria's consort, championed the Great Exhibition of 1851, held in the magnificent purpose-built Crystal Palace in Hyde Park, showcasing the wonders of industry and empire to the world. Museums like the Victoria and Albert and the Natural History Museum were founded in South Kensington, creating a cultural quarter for the masses. It was a city of boundless confidence, a true imperial capital, but one whose gleaming facade often hid the dark realities of the slums just around the corner. As the 20th century dawned, London continued its reign as a global capital, but the shadows of conflict were gathering. The city weathered the First World War, even experiencing the first aerial bombardments from German Zeppelin airships. A frightening new form of warfare, but nothing could prepare it for what was to come 2 decades later. During the Second World War, London found itself on the absolute front line. From September 1940 to May 1941, the city endured the Blitz, a relentless bombing campaign by Hitler's Luftwaffe, designed to break the morale of the British people and force them into submission. Night after relentless night, the air raid sirens would wail, sending Londoners scurrying into shelters, whether in the deep tunnels of the underground stations, which became makeshift dormitories, or in the flimsy Anderson shelters in their back gardens. The city was pounded by high explosives and incendiary bombs, which started terrifying firestorms. The skyline, once illuminated by city lights, was now painted with the hellish red glow of entire districts ablaze. The London docks, the industrial East End, and the historic city of London itself were targeted mercilessly, leaving vast swathes of the capital as rubble-strewn wastelands. The destruction was immense. One of the most iconic images of the era shows the dome of St. Paul's Cathedral standing tall and, honestly, seemingly untouched, wreathed in the smoke of the burning city around it. It became a powerful symbol of defiance, a testament to London's refusal to be broken. This period forged what became known as the Blitz spirit, a collective sense of courage, camaraderie, and grim determination to carry on no matter what the enemy threw at them. When the bombing finally ceased, London was scarred but unbowed. Over 30,000 Londoners had been killed, and hundreds of thousands were left homeless, but Hitler's primary objective had failed. The spirit of the city was not broken. If anything, it was stronger. The shared trauma and collective effort of the war years fostered a sense of unity and a desire to build a better, fairer society from the ruins. Just as it had after the Great Fire, London faced a monumental task of rebuilding, but it did so with a renewed sense of purpose, ready to shape its post-war identity. The London that emerged from the rubble of the Second World War was a city on the cusp of profound change. The post-war years were at first pretty grey and austere, but they also laid the groundwork for a more modern and socially conscious city, with the creation of the National Health Service and the welfare state. The 1951 Festival of Britain, held on the South Bank, was a deliberate morale booster, a futuristic showcase of design and culture that signalled a break from the past and looked forward to a brighter, more optimistic future. This was the beginning of London's transformation into the city we know today. A key part of this transformation was the arrival of people from across the Commonwealth. The ship HMT Empire Windrush docked in 1948, bringing workers from the Caribbean to help rebuild the mother country. They were followed by people from India, Pakistan, Africa and beyond, who all brought their own cultures, cuisines, music and traditions. London began to shift from being the capital of an empire to becoming a vibrant, multicultural world in one city. Areas like Brixton and Notting Hill became hubs of Caribbean culture, giving rise to the famous Notting Hill Carnival, while Brick Lane in the East End evolved into a celebrated centre for the Bangladeshi community. The latter half of the 20th century saw London swing. The 1960s brought a cultural explosion of fashion, music and art that made Carnaby Street and the King's Road, honestly, the coolest places on the planet. The city experienced economic booms and busts, from the big bang of financial deregulation in the 1980s that confirmed its status as a global financial centre to the construction of the Canary Wharf skyline. At the turn of the millennium, landmarks like the London Eye and the Tate Modern, ingeniously housed in a former power station, redefined the city's relationship with its river and its industrial past, celebrating both heritage and modernity. And so we arrive at today. London continues to evolve. It's a city that has hosted the Olympics, navigated political shifts, and continues to be a global leader in the arts, finance, technology, and education. Its story is one of constant dynamic reinvention. From a Roman outpost to a global village, it has been burned, bombed, and rebuilt, absorbing new peoples and new ideas at every turn. Its resilience is its genius. So, next time you walk its streets, take a moment, listen to the echoes of its past, and then go and tell a friend your favourite London story, for you are now part of its unending, magnificent tale. If you enjoyed this journey through London's incredible history, please give this video a like, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more fascinating historical adventures. Let us know in the comments which period of London's history fascinated you most. Until next time, keep exploring the stories that shaped our world.